All right, we are here. Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. We want to welcome you to the Wives Club for another episode. Welcome to season 3. episode 7, and tonight we're going to talk about what it means to be a feminine asset. So, allow me to introduce myself, and then the ladies will introduce themselves. For anyone who doesn't know me, I am Maggie, and in 2021, I actually booked a session with the late great Kevin Samuels because it always would get to me whenever I would hear him say, "Where are the older women to teach the young?" And so in that session, I asked his permission to stand up a community of like-minded and marriage-minded women, originally within the privacy of his Patreon group. I'm so grateful. Not only did Kevin give us his blessing, he actually came up with the name, the Wives Club, and you can see at the bottom scrolling who we are. So I am a former wife, mom of 2 boys, divorcee, but it started with just me. And then AV joined us in the Wives Club. AV, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Hopefully, y'all can hear me. My name is AV. I am a future wife. Like Maggie, I had an opportunity to also meet with Kevin and get some one on one coaching, right? Especially when I started the process of thinking about what my mindset needed to look like if I wanted to get married and, being out in the market, not seeing the results that I wanted to. So I wanted some help, and Kevin was instrumental in that process. I'm really happy to be a part of the Wives Club and to share some of the things that I've learned from him in these sessions. So I am thrilled to be here for another episode today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, AV. And then after AV joined us in the Wives Club, Lisa joined us in the Wives Club. So, Lisa, I'm going to come to you. Let's do a quick sound check. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Good evening, everyone.
All right. Please introduce yourself, Lisa.
Hi, everyone. I am Lisa. I am a current wife of 17 years. My husband and I have a 5-year-old daughter, and my husband is what he would consider to, Kevin would consider to be a Henry, blue collar kind of guy, also a military veteran. I did not book a session with Kevin, but I was very active in his Patreon, and I would call into the shows and just wanted to speak and converse with other people who are like-minded. And so I found the Wives Club on his Patreon. I got with the ladies, and I feel like I kind of feel like I'm doing the right thing, and it's just what I'm kind of passionate about doing. Because I want to see more people have the same kind of outcomes that I have, and I think I believe it is possible. So I'm happy to be back.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lisa. It's so wonderful to hear you in your own words. And then after Lisa joined us in the Wives Club, Hermisha joined us in the Wives Club. Hermisha, please introduce yourself.
Hello, good evening. My name is Hermisha. I am excited to be here for another episode of the Wives Club. So, I represent as a former wife, and I had the pleasure of meeting with Kevin a few times, and he coached me at the time how to be a better wife at the time. And now I'm on the other side of this, really trying to give back and share what I've learned. And I'm excited about this topic in particular about how to be a feminine asset. So, this is so important. So, ready to get into it and happy to be here.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Hermisha. All right, ladies. So let's talk about today's topic, and then we're going to take a lap around. And then, fingers crossed, you all may see a special guest towards the end of this stream. We're still working all of this out, but you will hear the ladies, and you will see in our titles here, we call ourselves former wives, future wives, and current wives. And the reason why is I firmly believe whether we are currently married, used to be married, or want to be married, we should carry ourselves as wives because wives do move differently. So if that's of interest to you, you are most welcome here. Now, on today's episode, I saw something that another content creator reacted to, and it was actually a clip from the 1970s, and I'll play a little bit of it here. And even though Kevin is no longer with us, his message lives on. And this was actually a clip about a finishing school for executive wives from 1970s, even before I was born, and I'm old. And what struck me in this video is how women in other cultures are intentional about making sure that they enhance their husband's brand, making sure that they are a feminine asset. It's not necessarily about all of the grooming and the etiquette. That's a part of it, but for me, it was really a mindset, and it made me think of Kevin. And, our heart is to give back and to teach from our lessons learned. We have bumped our head. We've got some stuff right, we've got some stuff wrong, and that's what we talk about here. So, I just wanted to share a little bit of that clip. We'll all take a look at it, and then we will respond about how we have been or maybe have not been a feminine asset in the past. So let me get our technology together, and I'm going to pull this up for you all. All right. All right.
Consultant who recruits executives for its client companies.
And it is at the personal referee level that you would inquire about what the wife is like, because this is people who know them, who've mixed with them socially. They can give an indication how she mixes, drinks, smokes, and generally conducts herself, and therefore you would gauge this information that way.
Does the company want to go any further than that ever? For example, moral reputation, this sort of thing?
Obviously, this goes without saying, I feel. Also, a company, in many cases, they don't want other executives to know that they are recruiting a particular man for the job. They might meet him off limits, and this way the chief executive would also meet the wife off limits. Or on the other hand, his secretary might entertain the wife for luncheon. She can see what she's like, her dress sense at all, both day and night level, and this way they can assess what she is like and is she keeping up with the husband.
Okay, so assuming you all were able to hear that, and we'll play another clip later, but I want you all to hear from the ladies. So I'll go ahead and start. So the first question that I have here: in the past, how have you not been a feminine asset to a man? And I always start because I've done a lot of work. And a little bit about my background: I was married at 25, married for 10 years, loved being married, would absolutely get married again. However, I did have that modern woman mindset. I thought things were 50-50. I could do everything a man could do until I'm 65, just like him, and I literally hit the wall. But 2 sons from the marriage, it's amicable, we co-parent now very well. Since that marriage, I've been in a long-term relationship with a high-value man, which means for me, I've had to do a lot of work to get on the program and change to be more of a traditional support system. So an area that I could have improved in the past was that competition. And if you had asked me when I was younger, it wasn't competition in an intentional sense. It was being competitive. You getting a promotion? I need to go for a promotion. You hit this salary? I need to hit this salary. And I think it's just bred in us, whether it's college, whether it's corporate. And I raise my hand and say I bought into that. But what I didn't realize, and what I would love for young ladies to consider, and I say this over and over, is that we do naturally slow down. Men are built for the pressure, for that rat race. After 10, 20, 30 years in corporate, it's very few and far between women that I've seen that are still just as passionate about that job or that career as they were in the beginning. So knowing my role and being happier as a support system as opposed to being out front is a way that I could have been a better feminine asset. So that is my first take at it. Avi, I'm going to come to you. How could you have been a better feminine asset in the past?
Thank you, Maggie. What a great question. And I honestly, this one really makes you think. It makes you think. And it's, one thing that's really cool about us is we're using our real life experiences and sharing that with you all, right? So, we got to open up a little bit, even if that means when we make mistakes. So that way we've made the mistakes so y'all don't have to. So being able to share that is super important. I think one of the biggest things, and I always like to bring my notebook from these sessions with Kevin, is understanding where I was making those mistakes myself and understanding how to redirect, right? Because there's always an opportunity to redirect. Um, One of the things that I saw in the dating process and when I wasn't a feminine asset, a good example of that is, and Kevin kind of hit me on the wrist for it. I was dating people that were around my age. And he was mentioning that it might be beneficial for me to date a little bit older, especially because I was dating my peers who were, I might have been a little bit farther in my career than other people my age, particularly some of the men. And he's just like, hey, if you have the skills that would be of a benefit to a husband later, maybe you want to start looking at older men so that way you can use that skill set to help them, perhaps if they have a business or if they have different things that could be beneficial to them, right? So for example, I'm a great planner. I love planning. That is just, it's like at this point it's a superpower, right? But it's one of those things where for the right person, an attribute like that could really go a long way. And I would say, if I'm really good at planning and I'm dating someone that that's not going to be beneficial to them, I think that's almost like unused talent and skill, right? And sometimes that can like frustrate people. So I would say for a really long time I was dating my peers, and Kevin was very adamant on not doing that in the future. So if that's one thing I can share for future wives out there, that's something I would totally keep in mind.
I absolutely love that, AP, and we've learned that our male counterparts need that time. Kevin often talked about that 10 years to go eat you know what and get themselves together. But Lisa, I'm going to come to you now. Thinking of the past, how could you have been a better asset?
I could have been a better asset earlier in my marriage when I was part of the working world, not complaining so much. I found out later through therapy and stuff like that that I would complain about a lot of stuff that my husband had no control over, or just bringing stuff from work, complaining about it, just issues that he didn't want to hear about, and also just not building my and not also not building really good relationships with friends, because I found after I got married, I did find early that I couldn't keep the same group of friends that I had before because they were doing different things and I was doing something different as well. And so I had a time period where my friendships kind of changed. I was more friends with like my family, or maybe people who were starting to get married or already married. And then I found that the activities that I used to do as a single person, I didn't do anymore. So I had to kind of find my own way, as I will say. And that kind of led to me complaining and not finding ways to, healthy ways to resolve it. So I got into like binge watching certain shows that probably weren't good for my mental health, like Housewives and those kind of reality shows. And it wasn't until I got some therapy, got some help, and realized that my complaining is not going to help anything. And then on top of it, having health issues, that didn't help either. But my complaining a lot and just kind of being unsatisfied and expecting my husband to make me happy. But once I got into my things that a wife is supposed to do and got talking to people about, are you really upset or complaining about your husband, or is something you aren't being fulfilled? So I got into things like gardening, community service, got back into church. I found a good church group to be a part of after we had moved to a new location. And I started getting back into things. And I think back as a child that, because my family was military, so we moved to different locations every 3 years. But one thing that was always true is that my parents would always find us a church to go to in whatever location we're at, a home church. And we'd have activities and kids to meet. Well, at the time I'm talking about, I didn't have any kids. It was just me, my husband, and a dog. But, just remember some of those things, like get a church family and do activities that you like. Or because I used to take dance and stuff. When I became married, I wasn't as much interested. My husband wasn't much of a dancer, but, gardening and stuff. So I would say, those are the kind of things that I feel like I was not really good at early in my marriage as being a feminine asset. And now I had to work on and kind of be like, oh, yeah, this is probably a better thing to do. But I feel like it was the things around, it was my environment and change and everything. So it was like a growing period. But when I talked to my husband and then I look back, I do know I was a big complainer and like, what are you doing to make me happy? And it was kind of like, you got to make yourself happy. And that's the way my husband, he's like, I remember you not being happy all the time and I couldn't make you happy. So it took a good amount of therapy to get that through to me and for it to make sense, which I'm very happy about that now because it really did help our relationship out.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit, well, actually, a lot about the intentional change. But Hermisha, I'm going to come to you. Please let us know how you could have been a better feminine asset in the past.
Yes, that's such a really good question as we all reflect, right? As we all talk about our growth. And as I reflect as a former wife of being married for 10 years, the one thing that sticks out to me is I realized I had a lack of boundaries in terms of not prioritizing self-care. As women, we can do all the things. We can be stretched in so many different directions, and we struggle to say no. And next thing you know, you miss busybody. So that was me, Miss Busybody, and so I had to make sure that I was prioritizing my self care. So I was working, I was homeschooling, and my husband and I at the time spoke about living under one income. But as a military family at the time, as he transitioned out of the military, I took on more the role of working while he found his position. And so at the time, I was being a feminine asset in that season. But what happened, and this is what Kevin counseled me on, I got used to making money outside the home. And the home suffered, if I'm completely honest. And what turned out to was supposed to be temporarily turned out to, I look up year 1, year 2, year 5, year 6, I'm still working full time. Year 7, I'm tired. My hair's falling out. I'm gaining so much weight. I'm not prioritizing self care, let alone the home is suffering, right? And so uh, I would say the biggest thing for me that I've realized is we have to prioritize our self care. We have to prioritize ensuring that we are taking care of ourselves, number one, uh, and that we are prioritizing the home and our man at the end of the day. And Kevin whipped me good because he was like, you enabled this. He told me straight up, I enabled this. I got used to living at a certain standard of living when the business took off. And you can't it's hard to balance one foot. It's a delicate balance when, as working wives, part our home is, you guys are going to hear me talk a lot, home is our domain, right? And it's a fine balance, not to say that you don't work outside the home, but if you do, should the home suffer, you got to be willing to shut it all down for the well-being of your home and your family and your husband. And for me, I got out of alignment where outside of the home, in so many sense, became more of a priority. I didn't say that, but my actions show that. And then my health suffered. And then I wasn't as present as I wanted to be for my children, let alone my husband at the time. So it really has a ripple effect when we're not prioritizing our self-care, but also the home. So you're going to hear me talk a lot about that. For those of you who work, for those of you who run businesses and things of that nature, your man is your priority. Home is your domain. That's one thing I would shout from the rooftops.
I absolutely love that, Hermisha. Thank you so much for saying that. We're going to go to the next round of questions, but I have a couple cash apps that I have to shout out. First of all, Christopher Williams, thank you so incredibly generous for the $100 Cash App. You have been so supportive. You have been so engaged. You comment on everything that we do. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then also Real Bravado Network for the $20 Cash App. He says for the Wives Club Advocate. And you all will see along the bottom, we do a lot of work between these sessions to make sure that it's a good experience for you all. One of the things that we needed to do was really crystallize who we are and in some ways, who we are not, because we know there's a lot going on in this space and we, support you all plugging in wherever you feel, led and fed. But you'll see along the bottom, we are the Wives Club. Created by Kevin Samuels and powered by men. The men in this community are so important. And that's why we are here so that ourselves and future generations can have better outcomes. That's really what Kevin wanted. He had a heart for the family, and I'm a boy mom, 2 teenage sons, so I see it coming down the pipeline. So thank you, thank you, thank you for the support. Okay, ladies, second round of questions, and I played the clip and I can play another clip. The link is in the description, but again, what struck me in this video was the intention behind these women to make home and supporting their man a priority. All of us here are degreed. All of us here have corporate experience. We get that, right? We're not speaking from. I think I've heard that it's like this. We know those long days and that long commute and the deadlines. And I'll raise my hand and say, I could not be happier. I do work. I work from home. Um, but I'm in such a better space to be a support system, and I didn't think it could be this good. So I will say that. So the question number two that I have, and you all will see it in the description, how are you now? Taking what we've learned and the mistakes that we've made, are you a feminine asset to a man now? And if so, how? So I'm going to comment and then we'll take another lap around. So I want to touch on something I believe Lisa said when she was talking about like the friend groups that she had and even the social that she used to watch on TV. Yes, in one-on-one interaction with my guy, I want to be a support system and a comfort to him. I work very hard to not bring chaos and to bring peace and joy. But also when he's not with me, it is very important that the way I show up, my brand, if you will, supports him even when he's not present. One of the things that always used to strike me when women would call in, oh, I will submit when, or, I will do this when. We really have to be in our role all of the time. And in that video, again, just as an example of these are women who are preparing for a man who's up for a promotion. He doesn't have the job yet. He's not there yet, but just the level of seriousness. And so for me in our community, that's something that I would love for us to do better at. And that's why we're here. So I do believe I am a feminine asset now. I fully accept that I'm average and I try to outperform in other areas. And that is one way that I make sure that wherever Maggie's name comes up, it would make him and you all proud. So that's how I would answer. AV, I'm going to come to you. Are you a feminine asset to a man now? And if so, how?
Thank you, Maggie. And the answer to that question is yes, absolutely. And, I would say in the last 2 or 3 years, that's why I sat down with Kevin. It wasn't only just to diagnose what the issues were. I really wanted to set myself apart in the marketplace so that this wouldn't be a challenge moving forward. Right. But also, um, there's one episode, I forget which one it was. It might have been right around Kevin's birthday last year. There's just this one thing he kept saying, and it was, when he was talking about feminine assets, he just kept saying, when I find my woman, she will be beneficial to me, right? That like just is just striking right now. Like I just hear him saying it because, you know, that's going to be different for so many people, whether you're blue collar, whether you're white collar, you know what you want as a man, right? And us as women, he always says, know what type of man that you want and then understand what he wants, right? So understand what that profession looks like. How many women called into that show and did not know what professions these men are in to make the money that they make? What does his day look like? What is it like when he gets home? How are you going to make it easier? You know, the ladies and I are working on a project, and I don't want to go too far into it because it's going to be a nice surprise, but we had to start thinking about, how do we show up as wives? And what are we going to do that sets ourselves apart? So for me, when I sat down with Kevin, he's just like, "Oh, you give me business, serious vibes." He's like, "Yep, executive wife, right?" And I thought about it like, okay, just like how Maggie's saying, and it just how we just watched that clip. If you're an executive wife, what does an executive do? What does his day look like? What can I do to make it easier for him when he gets home? Whether it is on his way out, whether it is while he's out conquering and slaying the dragon, what can I do to make his home, to Hermesha's point, the domain? How can I make that peaceful when he comes home? Right. So I would say absolutely feminine asset. And I'm always going to go back to Kevin's principles. You know, what makes a high value woman? She's attractive and appealing, right? She has a comforting character. She's discerning and disciplined. She's enthusiastic and exuberant. She's loyal and liberating. It's going to take a lot to hit all 10 of those buckets. But I think the reason why I'm a feminine asset is because I have a growth mindset. I constantly try to improve every day, but I'm curious enough to understand if something is wrong, how do you fix it? And it doesn't have to be a solution to fix it today. But if there's something that I could do 1% better every single day, not only to benefit myself, but ultimately to benefit this man's life, it should be something that is beneficial to him, right? So huge shout out to Kevin on that one. But I would say yes, Maggie, definitely a feminine asset today.
I couldn't agree more, AV. And yes, Mr. Option One has come in saying happy Valentine's Day to us. We want to give that right back to you all. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you feel the love. You see our red, you saw our flowers, and you heard Shaka singing your song. So, Lisa, I'm going to come to you now. Are you a feminine asset to a man now? And if so, how?
Yes, yes, I am, and I will continue to be so. But I do want to shout out to the Real Bravado Network. I think I've gotten two $20 cash apps, and that is my, excuse me, everyone. I have a daughter in the house.
Okay, no problem. So, Hermisha, I'm going to come to you while Lisa is in mom mode. Believe me, I understand. Hermisha, are you a feminine asset to a man now? And if so, how?
Oh, this is a really good question. I would say, listen, I would wholeheartedly, with my whole being, say that I am a feminine asset now. With the lessons learned from my last marriage and just the inner development, you know, I realize that I know what I bring to the table. And it's not my degree, and it's not my money. Nope. So, ladies, it's not your degrees, it's not your money, it's none of that. you know and for me, it's really, I absolutely love to be a soft place for my man to land. And I like to be that feminine presence for him. I like to, I can do the executive role, but truly, when I really have been thinking about this, I lean more traditional in terms of, I like to create the aroma in the home. I am a sensual type of person, so I love smells and touch and taste and all the things. And so I like sounds. And one thing I've learned about myself is I have this ability to speak over a man and to speak to his heart and his spirit and his soul. And I think that if we can start tapping into that as women, I believe that's also our superpower, where when you know your man and you can speak life to him and you can encourage him and you can inspire him. You know, the proverbs say the life and death in the power of the tongue. We've heard that before as some wisdom, right? And we know Kevin had talked about some of the things that are applicable to those in the faith and whatnot. But I really love to do that. I really realize that this is something that it just brings me so much joy. And so that's what I would say. Just being able to use my words, use my like have that takes a level of emotional intelligence as well to be able to discern. You know, when you know your man. Side note, being able to study your man to know what he needs, right? So I know that most likely fit well with a man in his mid to late 40s. You know, he's not going to necessarily need me to help him make money. He's going to know how to do that. He's going to be able to, he wants to be able to come home and really just unwind and relax. And that's where I come in, right? In terms of being able to obviously set the aroma of the home and plan meals and things of that nature. And admin things if he needs that, but primarily a soft place for him to land, a listening ear. I have that comforting nature. So I think to AV's point, knowing your man, knowing the type of man that you know you need, but also the type of feminine asset you are to the type of man is really important. And so that is something that I would say on that point.
Thank you so much, Hermisha. So, Lisa, if you're ready for us to circle back to you, we are talking about whether or not, from what we've learned and what we've experienced, are we now a feminine asset to a man? And if so, how?
5-year-olds. But yes, I am a feminine asset to my husband. Um, I would say that in the way that, let me look at my notes, make sure I get it right, because I got a little off center. Okay, I know I'm a feminine asset to my husband because I know how to make his life look effortless to the outside world. Um, like my husband's coworkers, they're always like, "Oh, what you got for?" They always think he's eating something fancy, or because I prepare his lunches, well, his dinners, because he's the second shift guy, and they always think, "Oh, what you know." The single guys are asking questions like, "You eating that? You're eating steak or whatever I cook for him, lasagna or something, and bread and salad and all this, and he's eating, drinking something healthy with a certain kind of water." So I just make sure it looks effortless to the outside person. And I'm also like his secretary. You know, my husband's a blue collar guy. He don't want to deal with bills, paperwork, insurance forms. You know, we had to find another house. He doesn't want to deal with all that. So that's something I do. So if I'm able to take care of all that, make his life make his life easier, that's what I do, and I'm really good at it. I'm so good at it that I've been outsourced to do this for a good part of my family. Like I do this for other people because I do it so well. And like when we travel and stuff, um, I just make his life look effortless and real easy to others. And he gets a lot of compliments on it. He's like, it's all up, you know. He always thanks me at family functions and everything because I do a lot of that too. But I just feel like as long as I make my husband's life effortless, because he has a demanding job. He's always had a demanding job as long as I've met him. It requires strength and energy and being in shape and stuff. So I try to make sure he's healthy, he's fed, he's well nourished, and when he comes home, he can relax and just do him and not have to worry about the world. So I feel like that's my asset to my husband because I'm a housewife, so I'm not in the working field anymore. I haven't been in for about 10 years now. So I had to figure out the skills I took from my career, not even my career, my job. That's how Kevin would have just, I learned it was a job after listening to Kevin. Taking things from my job I had in the world, how I can use that to benefit my household. And and in doing so, I feel more fulfilled than I ever did working and getting paid a whole lot more money um, back in the day. So I feel like I'm a great asset to my husband in that way.
I absolutely love that, Lisa. Thank you all so much. And we are going to take a quick chat break and just shout you all out. And then I'll play another clip from the video. If you all have questions for us, we would definitely love to try to answer them from a former current and future wife perspective, but I do have to shout out Mr. Option One for a $50 cash app. So incredibly generous. And he says, thanks for being a feminine asset. I appreciate it so, so much. And this is what I think is so beautiful about our community is that we are outspoken in our appreciation of the men, and the men just love on us and shower us and protect us and believe us. We feel it and appreciate it. So I saw several comments going through the chat. Rodney is basically saying being a housewife is underestimated and underappreciated. Absolutely. Brandon is chiming in. He said Lisa definitely gets it. What she said about her career being a job, I can realize that too. But it's one of those things that you couldn't tell me. I really thought I was making a difference on somebody's balance sheet, but no. Thank you, Eric, for being here. He says, keep up the good work, ladies. Thank you so, so much. Speak Live. We've got everybody chiming in. Thank you all so much for being here. Yes, being a wife and then becoming a mother. Absolutely. Talking about what happens to our minds when we don't take care of our emotions, like Hermisha just talked about. And then all the way back to Rodney saying competition defeats companionship. Yeah, that's a big one. All right, so I'm going to play one more clip from the video just so you all can see a little bit. And again, this is just about what struck me in this is how intentional these women were about making a man their priority and what we could have done better, what we are doing now, and then we'll take another lap around to talk about um, what we want to or what we aspire to be if there's anything that we're working on in being a feminine asset. And then we'll come to the chat and answer you all's questions.
Realize that their husband's future success can only be achieved if they groom themselves for new social strata. The school reinforces its ability to turn out better executive wives with a seductive series of before and after photographs.
So you all will see here the before and after pictures, and that's fine. It's about the intention, and then we're going to come back and take a look around here. But you can see what struck me when I looked at this is that especially Kevin used to talk about this a lot. Our competition, and let me take this comment down so you all can see. Our competition is taking this very seriously, even when it comes to different skills and whether or not you have a high value, a Henry, or a hit squad. Like AV said, knowing the type of man that you have and knowing the need that he has in a woman because we are a role. We're not just there to smile pretty and just, be a piece of furniture. All right, so let me take this down and we'll take one more lap around and I'll check the comments and see if you all have any questions for us. All right, so I will begin. As far as being a better feminine asset, I guess the journey that I've taken in this is first to realize what a feminine asset is. I can be honest in saying I never even thought about it. I just considered myself another person in the workforce. I was a paycheck. I was bringing in, you picked up from aftercare or I picked up from aftercare. You paid these bills, I paid these bills. And instead of that 50-50 mindset, like I said, I've done a lot of work to be 100% in my strengths so that he can be 100% in his strengths. An area of opportunity for me is to work on my patience. Sometimes I can be a little bit impulsive. I've come a long way, but I do get excited and sometimes I'm ready to jump into something. And I've had to learn that men are very methodical and they don't like to be rushed into their decision making. And so continuing to work on my approach and communication, getting right to the point so that they have all the information and they can make the decisions, and then, me supporting that decision. But I've gotten a lot of praise for being nurturing and for being soft and for being feminine. And so that is something that I've worked on and something that I need to continue to improve on. Because you've never arrived. This is a journey for life. But like Lisa said, I couldn't be happier. All right, AV, I'm going to come to you. Looking ahead, what areas of opportunity do you have to be a feminine asset?
Thank you, Maggie. Um, I am so excited about this. And you know what, real quick, I definitely want to give a shout out to the men that are in the chat supporting us, and also the men that are, this episode is brought to you by so many men that are powering what we're talking about here. And I really want to shout out two brothers that sent me a cash app. The first one is Real Bravado Network. Thank you so much, brother. It means so much that you're here. You've been here for a few weeks, a few episodes now. So we'd like to see reoccurring faces. And thank you so much. He sends a $20 cash app and mentions that he is a Wives Club advocate. We love that. Thank you. And then also Mr. Option One with the $50 cash app. I really appreciate that, Mr. Option One. And he says the same thing. Thanks for being a feminine asset. I appreciate you, brother. You've always been here supporting us and showing us love. So thank you again. So to answer that question, Maggie, for me personally, I've been kind of going through some stuff in my personal life, and it's really centered on time, right? Um, Future wives out there, when you're in a relationship, you need to have time and availability. My situation's a little unique, guys. I go to law school part time, and I have a pretty demanding corporate job. I love the fact that we're talking about corporate jobs because, and I'm not afraid to say this on the internet, I'm ready to leave that corporate job and taking steps to exit that corporate job, specifically because one thing that you'll learn about corporations, and this is really why Kevin has been saying this, there's so many women that are in colleges right now, and the ratio of women to men in those colleges is actually increasing. And there are a lot of women in the corporate workforce. Um, I've worked with some women over the years, and I've seen some of them get very hardened in the workplace to the point where they treat other women in that way. And that could be very draining. So, personally, I've started to see over the last few months this level of drained energy. And that's not the way I want to show up in any relationship, right? Luckily for me, law school is ending. So that's going to be off my plate. I'm really excited about that. But being able to be in a better environment where I am more happy, I think is everything, because I don't want to show up in a relationship with depleted, bombed out and depleted. Shout out to Brandon. I had to do it. I can't show up in that way. I refuse to show up in that way because that's not fair to the other person, and that's not fair to a marriage. That's not fair to a family. That's not fair to any interaction you would have in life. We all want to be happy, right? So I would say I'm going to continue to find ways to alleviate stress and make my time more available. So when I do find my guy, he has that time and energy for me. That's all I got on that one, Maggie.
I absolutely love it. Thank you so much, AV. Lisa, I'm coming to you, and then we have a very special guest in the back, but I definitely want to shout out Chantel Simone has joined the chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You all know her and love her, and I'm always grateful that we announced the Wives Club on her collab. But Lisa, I'm coming to you. Looking forward, and as far as being a better feminine asset, any areas of opportunity that you want to work on?
Um, I want to say thank you to Mr. Option One, and the Real Network Bravado again for the cash apps. I got a 50 and a 20. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And what I want to continue to do to be a better feminine asset is, as y'all know, I have a lot of health issues. So, and I didn't take care of myself the way I should have with diabetes early in my 20s and stuff. So it affected me later in life. So I'm doing the work now and doing better now. And it's a process. But I would say to be a better feminine asset, because I want to be here for my husband and I want to be here for my daughter. taking care of myself. I know I look thin, but this is not the way I want to look. I don't choose to be this thin. This is because I can't keep the weight I want to keep on. And so I would say, you know, getting the weight I need on and then being able to build muscle and tone up and have the strength I want in my body that I've kind of lost in my health and the health of my family is something I want to continue to do. And also staying and being a feminine asset, I want to stay in communities and be around people who are like minded and keep me in the right mindset, keep me thinking, you know, how can I keep being a great wife and helping others to do so as well and become one? So that's what I want to continue to do as a feminine asset because a lot of stuff I knew growing up and watching my mom and stuff, but when you get away from it or you get out in the world around other people and that's not their priority, so I think staying on top of it, of being feminine and remaining that way is what I plan on and continue to work on and will do. So that's it for me.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you so much, Lisa. And one of the things I love about what she said and what all of us are saying is that we have not arrived. We still want to get better. So, Hermisha, I'm going to come to you last and then we'll bring up a very special guest. I see y'all's comments and questions in the chat, but Hermisha, anything that you want to work on to be a better feminine asset?
Absolutely, absolutely. Like as we're shouting out, if I may, I just wanted to shout out again to the men. Thank you so much for your support, Real Bravado and Mr. Option One. Thank you for your generous donation, $50 and $20. Thank you so much. We appreciate the backing and the presence of men because we need our men. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So one thing I would say when we think of the term feminine asset, maybe that's maybe an oxymoron to a lot of people because we think of asset more of in the business sense, like an asset. Do we judge ourselves as value? But in fact, that's what Kevin did. That's what he taught us. And that's what's often taught in the business world. So we put our business hats on. This is sort of what I had to shift my mindset to really think of this from a business perspective in terms of as Kevin would say, the sexual marketplace. What is your SMV? What is your sexual marketplace value? We all have inherent value as people, right? But when we're talking about being a feminine asset, you want to be more of an asset than a liability, right? We know assets are all about long-term benefits, your value that you bring to the table, right? And AV know because AV is in banking, right? Right. And so as a woman, when we think of a feminine asset, we're talking about I think of that softness, the lady in you, your genuineness, your humility, all the things that men value, right? If men control access to relationship, how can we be a feminine asset to the men? That's so powerful for us to shift our mindset because a lot of us ask the women, but we need to ask the men. I think AV hit it last week. What do the men want? Ask what the men want and give them what they want. And we know what men want. First of all, they want something nice to look at. Let's just go there. Come on, y'all. Let's go there. And those of you in the faith community, because Kevin said he was a Christian, so I'm going to go there. If it don't apply, just let it go over your head. When Adam saw Eve, what did he say? He said, whoa, man. He said, whoa, man, right? He saw her first. So men are visual, right? And so, how we take care of our outer feminine nature is very important. Being fit, feminine, and friendly. So I would say one of the things that I've been working on and improving is my fitness. And Lisa hit on this about our health and our wellness is so important, right? Being an asset, how can I provide long-term value or benefit to my future husband? Well, I want to be able to be fit. He need to be able to toss me around. Wait a minute. Y'all know, come on, we grown up in here. Come on now. Sorry, that was a little funny. But you know what I mean, right? And so you want to be able to just enjoy your man and enjoy all of the things, right? So your fitness, the other part of being a feminine asset is your heart posture. At the end of the day, your cooperation and you being teachable, all those things. For me, being influential, being a humble person, rightly evaluating myself, knowing where I messed up, and being able to take responsibility and accountability, right? And being able to use my words to build up and not to tear down. Ladies, our words, we can inspire our man or tear him down. And being able, this is my favorite part, if I may, being able to nurture and speak to his ego. You got to be able to handle your man's ego. Can you manage his ego, right? Because masculine men have an ego, and they need you to be able to care for it and all those things, right? So, being a feminine asset, that's how I can be a feminine asset, and that's how one thing I would say to the ladies out there of how to be that asset to a man, because they control access to relationship, and those are the things that they value.
I absolutely love it. Okay, ladies, thank you all so, so much. And I am thrilled to respond to some of the feedback and the requests that we have been getting in the chat. We have a very special guest that we are going to bring up today. You all know her and you love her. Please welcome none other than Miss Lou Casely. So excited, so excited. All right, so Lucy, if you don't mind, for anyone who doesn't know who you are, if you would please introduce yourself, shout out your channel, and then I'm going to ask you 3 questions that we've all taken a turn on the hot seat. So please introduce yourself.
Hi, all. Thank you for having me here. This is an honor to be with such beautiful women. Oh my gosh, I feel so underdressed right now. I just got home from work. Today was I had to go to physically go work. So at 5 o'clock, I was driving. I was listening to a conversation while I'm driving through this California traffic, trying to get here, say hello to my husband, get the dogs ready. So it was a little crazy getting to this point. So thank you for having me here. I think that I forgot the question. Just who I am.
Absolutely. No, you're totally fine. All right. So tonight we're talking about being a feminine asset. And if you heard the clip, I got the inspiration from an old video from the 1970s about women who were going to finishing school because their husband was actually up for an executive role. And it just had me thinking about what Kevin said about how we should be intentional about being an asset. And I saw AV with that fan back there. So the first question was, in the past, how have you not been a feminine asset? Feel free to share whatever you would like.
Yes, I remember one of the episodes that Kevin Samuels had. He was talking about how you speak about your man, about your husband to other people. How, when you're speaking to friends or loved ones, whatever you say about him, they're going to grasp onto that and they're going to either judge him for the things you're saying about him. Some of them are going to say, well, I can do it better than you can. There's always those trying to pounce on that husband. So I used to do that with friends and family. And, now that I look back, it's like I should have just, you know, things that happen within the relationship, you keep them private. It's within the relationship. It's nobody else's business what happens between you and your husband. Because again, there are people that are going to try to maybe give you advice, good advice, maybe the wrong advice because they have other intentions. So I think that that's one of those things that I learned from him. And I remember while you were talking about it, I'm going, this is something that I remember even to my parents, talking to my parents about negative things that happened between my ex-husband. Okay, so I was married once for 11 years. Now I'm married, my second husband, for 15 years. So I did not bring the negative stuff that I had, that I remember having my first marriage. That is not part of my second marriage. So that's, I guess that's one of that one question that was a very negative asset that I'm hoping I'm not repeating it again.
Thank you so much for saying that, man. Lucchesa, it's such a joy to have you here. I know we've collabed before, but we all remember you so active in Kevin Samuel's chat when he was with us. And I raised my hand to say you were a brave and bold one because we were behind the scenes, but it's so wonderful to have you here. And thank you for sharing that you are a former wife and a current wife. So you have learned and you're here to help teach others like we do. So the second question we asked, considering what you shared, are you a feminine asset now to your man? And if so, how?
I hope so. I think so. And how? I think there's different aspects you could. I'm thinking about mainly is just providing peaceful dwelling, a peaceful home, a clean home, making sure that his meals are ready, making sure that um, just things are managed well in the house. Again, we both work full time. So, and the thing about our jobs is that we work from home Monday through Thursday. So he's got his studio, he's got his office, and I've got my little setup here. So he knows that I'm out here taking care of the things in the house. He doesn't have to do anything but remember. Well, I got to remind him that he's got to eat a snack, and I bring his snack and I bring his little meals and take care of him, because sometimes I have seen that he could go on an entire day without eating. So I'm the one that has to provide that nurturing or that feeding or just sometimes that babying. Our men, because they take on all that stress from work, they needed that nurturing. Of course, we're not going to treat them like babies, but we're going to treat them like something that we love and we want to care for. So I think that mainly that's it. I mean, I provide a little bit uh, money when it comes to 40-hour work. We have separate accounts. We have the house account, and then he gives me my account to do like whatever I want with that money. But mainly it's is the dwelling, the peaceful dwelling that I bring to him.
I absolutely love that. Ah, you had me at food and the home. Hermisha talked about that in just so many ways. And I am so glad that we are here to advocate for that, because I can honestly say I was one of those that was like, oh, yeah, that accomplishment outside in the world matters more. But it doesn't. Last question, and then we have some questions in the chat. So, considering all that you shared with us, Miss Lucy, is there anything you can do better to be a feminine asset looking ahead?
Absolutely. Always be looking for how to make the relationship between him and I better. I know that because I'm an introvert, I don't communicate as much, and that is something that I really truly need to work on, because I can go days without saying much. He's the talker in the relationship, so sometimes um, I think he wants me to share more about how I feel about the day and so forth. So that is something that I truly need to work on, because I'm the quiet one. And even when there are problems, I take him in and don't share where he's the sharer. If there's a problem, he's got to take care of it right away. Where me, it builds up. It builds up, and then it gets to a point where it shouldn't get there, because I don't want to make waves, but then I make too many waves that it just gets really bad. So the communication factor, that is something that I really need to work on.
I'm telling you, I am just this I love, love, love when we get together. Y'all think this is good for y'all. This is just such a dream. Lucy, I cannot thank you enough. I want to do one more shout out, and then we had a couple questions in the chat. Thank you so much to Out Here Trucking. I appreciate you so much for the $20 Cash App. So incredibly generous. The men have just come through and supported us so, so strongly, and we need you and we appreciate you. All right, ladies, so I'm going to bring everybody up and then we're going to take a look at some questions that came through in the chat. So we'll go maybe another at most 20 minutes. We usually keep these to an hour, but we want to make sure that we engage with you all. All right, so I'm going to scroll back up to the top and we had some questions that I just want to see here. All right, so the first question comes from Condemnia, and we'll just do a quick lap around. He says, who do you all believe makes the determination of who or what a feminine asset is? The men, the women, or both? I'll go first, and I'm going to say, ding, 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 the men. Kevin always talked about this, and we like to reference Kevin's shows, and I will put a clip when we post this in his Galentine's episode. Happy former past belated Valentine's Day. Kevin was asking a woman who called in, who sets the price? Or who gets to determine the value of a thing, the buyer or the seller? And you all have heard him ask those questions. And originally we used to think, oh, I'm a 10, I'm priceless, but actually no, the value is set by the buyer, whether or not they're willing to pay for that and take that on. So in relationships, because like Hermisha said, men establish relationships, the men get to say what the feminine asset is to them. There are some things that are universal. However, Kevin also told us that we need to study our men. We are to customize ourselves for our men, and they're going to be different. So we have to know what our strengths and weaknesses are, that self awareness, and also know what our men need. And like we talked about last week, they're not going to tell us too many times. So it's our job to listen. So, long winded answer, I believe the man determines. So, AV, I'm coming to you. You see the question here. Who determines what a feminine asset is?
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Condemnia for the question. It's such a good one. And I also want to shout out Here Trucking for sending a $20 cash app. He says, for half these modern women can't spell feminine asset. Gotta introduce some humor from time to time, right? We have to do that. So thank you so much, Out Here Trucking. I laughed hysterically when that came through. So thanks again. But as far as this question, Condemnia, I do think it is the man. Maggie is so spot on right there when she was talking about the market. Who is on point? It's the buyer, right? And there are going to be a lot of people out here with some of these topics where the women are like, oh no, we should determine that. Well, if we determine it, and what did we say last week? We need to do two things: ask the men what they want. And the second part is do it. Do what they say that they want, right? So if we also understand, okay, now that we know what a feminine asset means to him, it's going to be different for John or Mark or Joe. It's going to be different for all of the men. But to Maggie's point, if we can customize ourselves for that man and be prepared to do that, I think that you'll set yourself up for success for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, AV. All right, Lisa, your turn on the hot seat. Who determines what a feminine asset is? The men, the women, or both?
Okay, sorry about that. I asked my husband about this question, and he's like, the men do, and I believe they do because I was like, well, what do they need? Well, for him, he told me she needs to be supportive. She needs to show her assets, not just read them off to him or tell him what they are. So not just speak them out. And let's see. She needs to stay feminine at all times. So even when he's not around, or like in my case, my husband, he would have people around town seeing what I was up to and seeing how I was acting. And he just said, be pleasant all around, because that's what he wants. He wants someone with peace. So he was like, you were supportive. You didn't just show me that you were supportive, or you didn't just show me you were feminine. You did things that were feminine, like stuff I've described in the past, like put a coat up, a blanket on him or something. So he was I would just say, yeah, I wouldn't have known that unless he would have told me. So yeah, they determine it. They're the one that want it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, Hermisha, I'm coming to you. Who determines, the men or the women?
The easy answer is the men, but the analyst in me will also say the reason why is the men is because of how they were created. They were created to want to have a helpmeet. And so they are the ones who determine access to relationship, and they know what they need, right? And we are, as future wives, helpers. And so now it goes into the type of help you're going to be for that particular man, as we're all kind of echoing, which goes back to the theme that I think all of you ladies are saying, being able to be to customize, if you will. So we're talking about being malleable. Are you flexible? At the end of the day, you know, even though the men are the buyers per se, for thinking about with the business hat, us as women, we're also looking at the type of headship covering that we want to lead us, right? So we also have to be very discerning in that respect, but also being able to be malleable to be able to customize ourselves for the particular man. And we know we are called to be helpmeets too, right? So the men, I would say, yes, the simple answer is the men do determine who's the feminine asset because they know innately that they are in search. These are husbands. They know they are in search for a wife, a helpmeet. And we have to also be looking at the type of covering we need. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And then Miss Lucy, it's your turn on the hot seat. You saw the question. Who gets to determine what a feminine asset is? The men, the women, or both?
It's always been the men. And anybody that wants to go against it is going to have a really hard time facing reality. I mean, if the men are telling us that they like us natural, they like our nails a certain way, and we go out there and do the opposite, we're not meeting their needs. We're doing the opposite of what they want. So, you all had incredible, great answers, and bottom line is they lead the world. They lead us. So what they ask from us, we will provide. And I think that that's the best way, the most harmonious way that you can have a relationship. If your husband tells you, no, baby, that dress is not fitting for this occasion, why am I go against what he's saying? He knows very well that at that place that we're going to go, that dress is not going to go with the environment. So yeah, they're the ones that are set the standards.
Fantastic. Okay, ladies, y'all want to do another round? We have another question. This one is from Amethyst. So I'm going to pull this up. All right, let me bring Lisa in here. All right, so the question is, as a young woman, would it be best to work in corporate and maximize my youth, or just work flexible slash work from home jobs? All right, so I'll take a stab at this and then we'll take another lap around. Ultimately, it comes to the outcomes that you want. Kevin always used to ask that, "What do you want life to look like when you're 50, when you're 60?" And I know, and y'all, Amethyst just graduated, so I know she's in her 20s, and I remember thinking that, "Oh, tomorrow would never come, and I'll be able to keep this up forever." Believe me, we all slow down. So what we need to do is we need to make decisions now that benefit us for the life we want to come. So if you want that corporate path, those promotions, that, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., because it's never 9 to 5, then I would say hit it hard and go for it, knowing that the relationship is going to lag behind. However, if you do want marriage and family, there's no time like the present. I think a lot of us wait until we have that, oh, you know what moment, and then we're scrambling. So if you want to be the type of wife and mother that is more of a support system and not the 50-50 paycheck, then if you are working, as we should until we're, the family makes a decision that it's time to, sit it down, I would work the type of job that allows you, as AB said, to walk away when you're ready to walk away. Because those of us with corporate experience can tell you it can be it can really be very demanding, and you don't want to be in that position where you've put yourself you've pinned yourself in a corner where you have to do this job. So that would be my advice. Avi, I'm going to come to you. What would be your advice as a young woman?
Yeah, no, I think this is exactly what I've been kind of going through recently. As mentioned, Amethyst, of course, we want you to do what's best for you. But if anybody is going to go into corporate, my biggest advice is do not plan to stay for a long time, because what happens when you are in corporate? You want to keep climbing the corporate ladder. You get to the top of the ladder, those people are busy. And, along the way, there are so many things that happen. Like, I'm dealing with this situation where someone is very tenured, and it's a woman, who's nearing retirement, but they have their ways, antiquated ways of management, but they don't care, and it's just not worth it in the end, right? Like, having a director title and all those things, women entered the workforce in the 70s, was the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and started getting these really high powered jobs. But what does Kevin always say? Pressure is built for shoulders, not hips, right? And I see some people get into these jobs and they do really well, but their marriages suffer, their families suffer, their kids don't see them. So my biggest piece of advice is, if you get in it, don't plan to stay for too long if your goal is family and children.
I absolutely love that. All right, Lisa, your turn on the hot seat. What would your advice be to a young woman?
Um, well, I know, like for myself, the career I keep calling it a career, the job path I chose, um, which was IT and technology. You could have paid a lot of money for to go to school if you went to a tech school, or even if you went to a regular college or a community college. You might have, if you didn't have the money up front, you had to get a loan or pay for it some other way. And I'm someone that didn't go to a traditional 4-year college, but when I finished my schooling, I was able to make really good money right after graduation. Now I know not all fields are like that, but I say that to say when you get out, if you're like me, you have debt. That's something that your spouse, like my husband, had to look at and say, how much debt you have, and then to find out 10 years into my job that I couldn't work my job anymore due to health. Luckily, I had already paid off my student loans, but if that wasn't the case, that's another something that my husband has to look at and I have to look at. So if like I said, I'm always telling people I'm not a traditional housewife. I didn't get married to think I was going to be a housewife, but I ended up being one, and I'm very happy as one. But I would tell my daughter, if you want to be, I guess, like how she's going to grow up like mommy, then maybe, you want to get a 2-year degree or something, or go to school or college for a certain amount of time if that's your plan. But if you want to be more, I don't even know if it's going to be at her age when she's older, if it's going to be considered modern woman like. If you want to do that, you just got to keep in mind that you might be foregoing finding that husband at a younger age and having the family that you want, and it might have to be later in life. And I'm just hoping, just like what we're doing now, some young lady in high school or entering college, or maybe even finishing college, can look at us and say, you know what, that's a good point. Nobody ever talked to me about this. Because I don't remember getting this conversation with my parents, and I had a great family background, but I think it would help. And I think that's why we're here doing this. This is kind of conversation and questions that make me happy to get people thinking, especially young ladies and ladies like what my daughter's going to be in the near future. So I think that's what I would look at.
Thank you so much, Lisa. All right, Hermisha, you're next. What advice would you give to a young woman?
Yes, I would simply say, and Kevin would always say this: Are you a wife? And if that's true, then we want to choose careers or skills where we can work from anywhere, right? Where we can work from anywhere, or we can easily sort of transfer them. Because the thing is, if you're a wife, but then also if you want to have children, and from speaking as a former wife with 2 little children, obviously I had the skill sets, and I do everything remotely, and I went in with that intention. you want to be able, again, home is our domain. And so your time gets really, really strained, and you have to learn how to manage that with working outside and then in the home. And then when you add children, so you want to be able to control your hours is what I'm trying to say. If you do have to work, or if you're in a marriage where both of you are working, I think Lucchese said they both work from home, right? That's a huge privilege, right? Where you're here, you can still be an asset to your husband. You're still in the home, and you can control your hours. So I would simply say choosing careers and skills where you can work from anywhere, and ideally you can work remotely. Yeah, because again, you want to think of home as your domain and your man is your priority. If you don't have children, and then the children are next, essentially. Yeah.
I think she's a little bit frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks like Maggie's frozen. Lucchese, why don't you take that question too? How would you
Yes,
answer it?
yes, I'll follow up on that. And all of your answers are great. How I was seeing it, it was maybe it all depends on what it is that you want. I was thinking, I met both husbands in the corporate world, but I knew that I wanted to be a wife. So having that in the back of your mind when you're going to work at a corporate environment, don't aim for being in the managerial chief director, because that requires a lot of your time, a lot of your um, even your stress is so stressful. I was just talking today to my manager, and there's a position open for a higher position, and she's like, Lucy, I'm not married, I don't have any kids, I don't think I'm ready to go a step above if I want to become a wife, if I want to have a meaningful relationship, because she has focused her life into into her managerial work, and she's finding out. I think she's 37 now, that she's getting to a scary part that she doesn't even know if she's going to be able to have babies. So I think it has to do with what is your goal. If you want to be a wife, yeah, get a position in the corporate world as I don't know, an executive assistant, administrative assistant, something that those skills you're going to be able to use them when you go, if you become the wife and you become a stay-at-home mom, because those skills you're going to be able to maybe use them at a job that you can do from home. So it just make sure that if you want to be a wife, always have that in the back of your head, and not aim too high, because the higher you go, the more stressful and more time is going to be, that position is going to ask from you.
Yeah, that's
And I
such a
think,
great answer. That's
and I
such a
think
great answer. Maggie, are you
she's
back?
back, kinda.
I'm back, y'all. I don't know what happened. Please continue. We're going to go and wrap it up. Who was next?
I think we're good.
That was it.
Yeah, we've done it.
Look at us.
All right, fantastic, everyone. Thank you all so much. I had to rejoin on my phone, like everything just blanked out, but I appreciate you all so ahead and close out and ask if anybody has anything else they want to say. We appreciate you all so much. The Wives Club is on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. We stream for you once a week, usually Friday nights, but please turn on your notifications, because we do have a schedule change for this upcoming week. You will see us Wednesday evening to accommodate travel. So let me go ahead and let AV, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I love this community so much. I actually want to thank Lucchese for being here too. I'm so pumped that she came up on the panel, because honestly, like, I took that piece of advice that she had, I actually wrote it down for myself. I was just like, that's good. That's really good. So that was gold. Thank you so much, Lucchese. And, I saw Brandon and the common sense expert, and some of the men had some really, really good questions. I think what we'll do is probably after this, check out y'all's questions and see if maybe we can answer them next time. Or, just because some of them are really, really good. And I just wanted to shout you guys out for all of the interaction. This was fun. I had a really good time tonight.
Absolutely. All right, Lisa, any final thoughts from you as we close out?
No, I've enjoyed the show, and I'm sorry about my daughter, y'all. She thinks we've been doing this for almost 2 years, so she likes to talk to the ladies. She thinks she's part of the show, so I'm trying to, we got different times that we're doing it now, and she's usually somewhere else. But I appreciate y'all, hanging in with us, but we're building it as we fly, as Kevin used to say. So, but I've enjoyed this immensely. I think that Lucy came and joined us, and I look forward to next week and all y'all's questions. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Brandon, I got your message. So whatever question you have, you can either text me or you can put it in the chat and we'll see if we can answer it. But Hermisha, anything to close out from you?
Oh, there we go. My apologies, you all. But thank you, Luke Hazley, for joining. It's like so good to put a face to the name. I remember Luke Hazley being in the chat the whole time on Kevin's show. So it's such an honor to meet you, Luke Hazley. Being the best feminine asset, best version of ourselves, and we going after it, right? And continuing to lean into the work, ladies. And that's why we're here. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm so excited that we were able to do this show. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you so much. And Luke Casey, I'm coming to you. First of all, like Hermisha and everybody said, we cannot thank you enough for joining this stream. You're getting so much love in the chat. And again, anyone here, this community started in the Kevin Samuels Patreon, but it is growing because we are here for anyone who is a current, former, or future wife. And yes, we know and love Lucchese, and this is the first of hopefully many times she will join us here. But what would you like to say in closing out?
Thank you for inviting me again. Beautiful women. We learn from each other. And I appreciate our men. Our men are the ones that are supporting us. And they have been the ones that have supported women for centuries. And the fact that, unfortunately, we're at an age where it seems that we are not giving them enough credit for building the world for us. We need to start showing that appreciation much more. So thank you for having me on. Sorry I came in so late. Brandon asks the question, what was your most difficult moment that you experienced when you were in between your previous marriage and your current marriage? What did you do to overcome it? That's a great question. I think not making sure that I didn't apply the negative things that happened on my previous marriage to my current marriage, because we tend to be a little resentful, and we bring on that baggage, and that's the last thing you want to apply to the new loving person that took the chance on you and opened his heart to you. So I think that was something, the first years it was a little it was challenging, because again it was from one situation to a brand new one, and that was the hardest part, not applying the negative things that happened on my previous marriage to the new marriage.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for your honesty. And sorry to have to close you all out with the struggle stream, but I know you all understand. We want to make sure you have a good experience. And Condemnia, thank you. He says he wishes these streams were longer, but we usually keep them to about an hour. We're doing 90 minutes just to accommodate your questions. But please tune in. You all won't have to wait another 7 days. We will be back with you Wednesday night of this week. Please subscribe, support. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you again, Luke Hazley, for joining us. And until the next time, we'll see you all back on the Wives Club. Bye.